And then the overhead, the warehouse, the electric, the technology, the supplies, and all that worry comes off of you once you outsource.
Hey everybody, welcome back to SubSummit Studios. I've got my good friend Jeff McMann here today. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Jeff, before you tell everybody about yourself, I just want to say Jeff has been a supporter of SubTA and SubSummit since we first started, which was in 2016. He's on one of our committees, highly involved in SubTA, great friend, and somebody that you can really go to if you have any questions about fulfillment. And so, Jeff, you're with Quickbox. Tell us a little bit about yourself real quickly and your role there.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you guys having me on today and giving me the opportunity to impart some of my knowledge to SubTA. As you mentioned, I'm a huge supporter of SubTA. I think the association is exactly what the subscription e-commerce arena needed. And you guys came along at a time where there was really no direction or help for anybody, and you've taken it to the moon. Quickbox, we are a privately owned fulfillment house located in Denver, Colorado, and we also have additional facilities in Atlanta, Georgia. We have about 350,000 square feet in total, and we're about to blow that up to 450,000 as we're adding an additional 150,000, I believe, in Atlanta here in the next month. So, and Atlanta is our while we're running subscription box businesses out of both facilities, Atlanta is really starting to become our hub for sub boxes. And we're putting all the systems and processes in place in there to be able to create higher efficiencies for all of our sub box clients.
And so, fulfillment is a huge part of e-commerce, especially those in the direct-to-consumer subscription space. I think a lot of brands, especially early on, they start to think about, should we do it in-house or outsource it? I think as they start to scale and they get to above 30, 40, 50,000, it's almost like a no-brainer. You almost have to outsource it, right?
Right.
But, tell me what some of the benefits are to doing it in-house, right? Maybe they're still early stage versus outsourcing it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's not an unusual question. I get it all the time in my daily conversations. I know you see it all the time. I see it in SubTA's Facebook groups, which, by the way, if anybody has the opportunity to go to the SubTA Facebook group, it's a great resource. One of the things that people don't know is that early on in the sub box world, I also owned a sub box. So I, like everybody else, started my sub box, and I got hooked up with ShipStation, and I got hooked up with Shopify, and I started fulfilling boxes out of my basement. And I quickly realized that I didn't like doing it. You learn how to become very efficient. You learn how to interact with your customers. You learn who your customers are. You learn what people want. And you learn the ins and outs of how products are going from your basement to their doorstep. Yeah. So you really become intimate with the whole process. And I personally would recommend that everybody, when they're starting off, does the fulfillment themselves. Yep. Until they get to about 2,500 to 3,000 boxes. Then it becomes, and I know that number seems really large when you're sitting in your garage or your basement trying to fill that many boxes, and you've got product everywhere and so on and so forth. But from a financial standpoint and from a learning and intimacy standpoint with your clients or your customers, I just truly think it's an invaluable period of time. And then you start looking at the economics of it. And, from a postage standpoint, obviously a fulfillment house leverages all their volume that they have across the board. So they're able to negotiate much better pricing from a postage standpoint. And as far as, the building capabilities go, obviously we have, we're able to build thousands and thousands of boxes at a time. At any given time, because we have the resource and the space. once you get to that level of being able to outsource, I think the postage becomes really becomes a big factor. And it's a big factor for everybody because postage is doing nothing but going up every year, and there's no end in sight. It just continues to go up and up and up. So if you can save, as we all know, pennies in the subscription business is a lot of money.
Right.
So if you can save pennies, then that's when you're really able to see some economies of scale there and some value add in the supply chain. So
when you're thinking about, so I think that there's automatically going to be a cost savings, like you mentioned. Also, the founder, in some cases, the founders are still doing some of that fulfillment and like having them focus on what they should do really well, right?
Marketing, yeah.
Building the brand, marketing, curating the boxes. When you're really at high scale, you've got costs in terms of warehouse and right, managing all of that, managing the people. And the truth is, sometimes you don't need people all month. So like, it's hard probably to get temporary people to come in sometimes, right?
Right.
Where a fulfillment center is going to have that on staff. They've got full staff at all times. And you guys are able to crank out like fulfillment in a day in some places, right? Like crank them out.
Right.
In some cases on the when it's in house, you can really see your inventory. You can start to get creative with boxes. If something needs to get shipped really quickly at 10 o'clock at night, you have a customer that's upset, you can get something out the next day. That there's probably an advantage of being in house. But on the outsource side, how should a fulfillment center help make sure the founder has a really good grasp on his inventory, right? Because there's always leftover inventory. How do they help with that sort of data, and like how is that portrayed to the customer? Just
to go back to something that you said, resource in people are a big issue in every industry today. It doesn't matter if it's restaurant, if it doesn't matter. Finding people is very difficult today.
The landscape's changed.
Yeah, the majority of fulfillment companies have their core set of employees, and those people are on the floor and they're in key positions on the floor. And then they augment the daily volume that they get with temporary staffing. One of the nice things about Quickbox is that we're one of the largest second chance employers in the state of Colorado.
Oh.
So we have a great pool of temporary staffing that we can scale up and down every day based on the volume. So to your point, it's very easy to say, we're going to get a couple of my brother, my sister, some friends to come in and I'll give them some pizzas, but you can't count on that every day. And then the overhead, the warehouse, the electric, the technology, the supplies, that all comes off of you, and all that worry comes off of you once you outsource. So. To address your question about inventory, one of the things that you want to look at when you're talking to a fulfillment company or thinking about outsourcing to a fulfillment company is what is their technology backbone about, and what kind of capabilities do they have? Do they have the capability to tell you in real time where your inventory is, what's accounted for, what's allocated towards your orders, and what's still active in stock? What are their capabilities once all the boxes are out of either saving that inventory and using it to ship for e-commerce orders, or send it back to you, or send it back to your manufacturer? But the key to that is the reporting up front. What is the real-time reporting capability, and what is the visibility to you as the sub box owner of your inventory? From receiving. So the minute that product hits the door or hits the dock, how fast are you getting it checked in? As well as I do, in a lot of cases, inventories a challenge every month. There's, if you got 5 pieces in your box, you get 4, and there's always one that's just kind of dragging out there, right? So then it becomes just in time, and you can't really do your build until you have all the pieces. So, the minute that inventory hits the door, how fast are they counting it? How fast are they getting it checked in and put it into your inventory so that you can see it and know what's there? Right. Most warehouses are good warehouses are going to be 24 to 48 hours from dock.
What's the quality control look like? They're looking at the box, seeing that each box says that it has 24 pieces. They're counting how many boxes. I've heard some experiences where people have had warehouses lose inventory and then find it later on. What does that quality control look like? You send a report pretty fast saying we've got this many.
Yeah. So basically what we do right off the bat, and what most, larger fulfillment companies will require you to do is input an ASN into their system. So right off the bat, the receiving manager knows what's coming in that day, how much it's coming in, how much is coming in, how many pieces, by who's the carrier, and what the product is. Right. So when they get it, they verify against the ASN or the bill of lading. Right. And they count it, and if everything checks out, it gets put away. Now, if something comes in and there's damaged box, we immediately set that box off to the side and physically open the box to count to make sure that every piece is in there. And I think we're running at somewhere, from an inventory standpoint, we're running at about a 1% to 2%, right, order accuracy, inventory accuracy rate.
Now, what does a good fulfillment center do when they checked in that 5,000 units arrived, and then a month and a half later, they're like, we're short 150?
Right.
What happens there?
So what happens there is well, first of all, it shouldn't happen. But I'm not going to say that it doesn't. It should not happen, because companies should be running what they have as daily audits, okay, and cycle counts. So basically what happens is that the system automatically goes out and verifies randomly, go to this location in the warehouse, count how many items are there, and there should be 300 pieces there. If there's not 300 pieces there, you stop the presses, you put a freeze on that product, and you go and verify and recount everything that's in the building. So that should be happening on a daily basis.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's important.
That should be happening on a daily basis. In those cycle counts, generally catch whatever issue. It may be that it's only showing 280 pieces, but there's 20 of them sitting over on a table. You usually catch it with the cycle count. Now, at the year end, if there's a big variance, then again, you have to do a whole cycle count, freeze the product, count it. If it's deemed that it's our fault as the fulfillment house, we pony up for it.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, that's good to know that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What are tips you would suggest to anybody that's looking at a fulfillment center? Give me 4 or 5 tips of things that they should be asking them when interviewing them, and what are the things that they should be looking for in a really good fulfillment center. And put your unbiased cap on here, right?
Yeah, I will. No, I will. I try to be more of a subject matter expert than the sales guy for this. I think the first thing that I would ask is where are you located, and where are your locations? Then what is your pricing, and how does?
Well, when we go with locations, let's stop on that. It's important to have multiple, right? Because then you can get better shipping rates because you're always in that 1 to 3 zone or whatever.
Correct.
That's a huge tip. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's huge. And, depending on the amount of volume that you have, we have some clients that are shipping out 250, 300,000 boxes a month. They want to be spread, both inventory on both sides, because number one, from a time in transit to the customer's doorstep is faster, and number two, the cost is certainly.
I mean, look, this is almost a no-brainer, right? Because, and for those of you listening, if you're shipping out of one location, let's say for us, Michigan, right?
Right.
Our zone 1 through 3 on, let's say, 8 ounces, I'm throwing numbers out, is like $3.50. Well, when it's zone 8, California, Seattle, we're paying $4.50.
Correct.
A whole $1.
Yep.
Now, if we had a fulfillment center in the East Coast and in the West Coast, you'd be saving that dollar on every one of those. I mean, that's gonna be a significant amount of money depending on how much you're shipping. But on the flip side, even if it's $500, like $500 is $500, right? Like when you're being scrappy, like I'd rather take that $500 and put it towards ad spend, right? So I think that's like probably the number one tip is like, what's the locations look like? Because that can have a big effect on your business.
That would be the number one question I would ask is where are you located?
Yeah.
And if they don't have two locations, then, you know, is their main location neutral to where your customer base is?
Yeah.
Number two is, you know, what is their pricing? Do they have subscription box pricing? Do they have e-commerce pricing? Do they have kitting capabilities and pricing? The subscription box business, especially from the fulfillment standpoint, is pennies. We've already mentioned that. So, you know, the more you can save and the cheaper and more efficient a fulfillment company can do the job for you, whether it be through automation or bodies or what have you, the better off and more margin you're going to put back into your pocket. You know, so again, location, price, are there any setup fees? Are there hidden costs? Are there things that I'm going to get billed for that I don't know
fees,
about? Yeah.
Fees for product coming in, right? Those can sort of like tack on, right? And they
absolutely.
So do good ones, a good one should be upfront honest, or do some not charge that stuff, or what have you seen?
Yeah, no, you know, a lot of people, if they charge it, they say honest companies will tell you up front for it. There are companies that don't charge for it, but if they're not charging for it, make sure that it's not rolled into somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, I've known companies in the past that say they don't charge for receiving product into your warehouse, but yet they're adding it whatever it may be, 20 cents, whatever it may be, 2 cents into somewhere else. So you got to be careful of that. And you know, at the end of the day, what's the total cost per order for you to fulfill my order?
So you might take your average total fees, divide that by number of boxes, add the kit fee.
Yep.
That gives me the real fulfillment fee.
The real fulfillment cost.
They need the real fulfillment number, not just we can do these for $1. Well, let's add everything else in.
Yep.
Let's divide it, and it comes up to $1.10 or $1.05.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you guys started Gentleman's Box, every box was the same.
Yep.
Everybody got 5 items, 3 items, whatever it was. And every box, you'd put somebody on a table and tell them, build me 500 of these boxes, and they all get these 3, 4, 5 items, whatever it is.
Yep.
Today, boxes are much more customized. There's much more variations. So the complexity of building these kits today in these boxes is not a matter of just putting a body on a table and telling them, put all these in a box. So the more complex your box becomes and the more customized your box becomes, then obviously the pricing, you know, is going to go up a little bit due to the complexities in the customization. So as you're building your box or putting together your plan for your box, I would say simple, safe, and stupid is probably the easiest way to go to start out. And then as you grow and your customer base starts demanding more, then absolutely meet the customer demands.
Yeah. Jeff, this has been super insightful. I appreciate your time as always. I appreciate your support to SubTA. If anybody has any questions, how can they reach you?
J McMann, McMann at quickbox.com.
Awesome. And I know that you're participating in our virtual events, and you're going to be at SubSummit as always. So
yes. Yeah,
thank you so much for your support. I look forward to chatting with you soon, and we'll talk later.
You got it. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Jeff.